The sun beat down on Main Street, like it always did in early August, turning the pavement into a shimmering mirage. Inside the grand, marble-laced lobby of Grayson National Bank, everything looked picture-perfect. Cool air hummed softly. A security guard leaned lazily against a pillar. Two tellers whispered gossip behind the counter, their eyes occasionally drifting toward the door, hoping something, anything, would break the monotony. At 2:17 p.m., something did. The heavy glass door creaked open, and in walked a hunched old black woman in a faded floral dress, worn boots, and a wide straw hat that had clearly seen better decades. Slung over her shoulder was a burlap sack, dusty, fraying at the seams, and bulging with something indeterminate. She moved slowly, but not weakly, purposefully. Behind the counter, Sarah and Melissa exchanged a look, the kind that said, "What in the world is this?" Security straightened up a little, not out of alarm, but amusement. The woman stopped in the center of the marble floor and looked around. "I'm here to see the manager," she said, voice strong despite her age. A pause, then a stifled chuckle. Sarah pressed the intercom. "Mr. Whitmore, there's a visitor here to see you." Upstairs, branch manager Gregory Whitmore glanced at the camera feed and smirked. "Send her up," he said. "Let's have some fun." Gregory greeted her with a patronizing smile and a handshake so light it bordered on disrespect. "And what can I help you with today, ma'am?" The woman didn't take a seat. She looked around the office, then met his eyes directly. "I'm here to take a look at my bank." Gregory blinked. "Your bank?" "That's right," she said, loosening the drawstring of the sack. "I believe this building, the assets, the land it sits on, it's all mine." He almost laughed. "I think there's been some misunderstanding." She pulled out a thick stack of brittle, yellowing papers, deeds, contracts, certificates. His smirk faltered. "These here," she said, spreading the documents out across his polished mahogany desk, date back to 1923. "My grandfather bought this property when nobody else wanted it. The bank built on top of it decades later, leased the land long-term from our family. That lease expired last month." Gregory leaned forward, scanning the papers. He recognized some of the signatures. City officials, historical registrars. One was even notarized by his own bank's legal team, dated 1975. He felt something twist in his gut. "This can't be," he mumbled. "This would have come across my desk. We'd have records." "You do," the woman said calmly. "But you weren't looking for them. Didn't think someone like me would know how to find them." Within an hour, the bank's legal department was scrambling. Calls flew between floors. The boardroom filled with red-faced executives who hadn't read a single clause of the original land agreement. She sat quietly in the lobby, sipping a glass of water. Security didn't know whether to watch her or guard her. At 5:12 p.m., she was asked to come back upstairs. This time, the room was full. Lawyers, senior VPs. Gregory's tie was loose, his forehead damp. "We've reviewed the documents," he said. "They're authentic. But surely you don't intend to—" "I intend," she interrupted, "to reclaim what's mine." "But this is a multi-million-dollar operation," one executive blurted out. "You can't just walk in with a sack of old papers and demand—" "You ignored every letter my family sent over the last year," she said. "No one returned our calls. You thought we'd go away, and now you're surprised I came through the front door?" Silence. "I don't want your bank," she continued, reaching back into the sack. "I want the land. You can either vacate or buy it back." She pulled out a single sheet of paper, a new lease agreement, one that would cost the bank triple what they were paying before, and force them to publicly acknowledge their oversight. "I suggest you move quickly," she added, "because tomorrow I'll be meeting with 3 rival banks who are very interested in this address." That night, the boardroom stayed lit until midnight. By morning, Grayson National Bank had a brand new sign at the entrance. Operated on land owned by the Holloway family estate. And beneath it, in smaller but unmistakable letters, we acknowledge the legacy and rights of the land's original owners. The old woman, Evelyn Holloway, walked past the building every morning after that. Same hat, same boots, different sack. That one held fresh-cut magnolias. But the story doesn't end there. 2 weeks later, a man in a tailored gray suit approached her while she was tending a garden bed near the courthouse. He introduced himself as Patrick Monroe, real estate developer. He'd heard the story. Everyone had. It made whispers all the way up to state Congress. "I represent a group of investors," he said smoothly. "We'd like to purchase the land rights from you. 10 million, all cash." Evelyn barely looked up. "You think I did this for money?" He laughed. "Everyone has a price." She stood, looked him dead in the eye. "My price was being heard. You missed your chance." She turned and walked away. He called after her, "We'll double it." She didn't even flinch. And just when the town thought the story had finally reached its end, something else happened. A construction crew arrived on the lot next to the bank. Within days, the fence went up, and a sign was posted. "Coming soon. Holloway Credit Union. A bank that remembers." It wasn't about revenge. It was about remembrance. But that didn't stop Grayson National from losing nearly half its local customers over the next 6 months. And when Evelyn walked into her bank, Holloway Credit Union, on opening day, employees stood to greet her. No one laughed. They stood tall. Because they knew. She wasn't just the old lady with a sack. She was the storm they never saw coming. By the time winter rolled around, the town of Millstone had changed. Subtly. Then all at once. Where Grayson National had once stood as an untouchable institution, now it looked nervous. The once pristine lobby felt colder, emptier. Some of the staff had quietly transferred. Gregory Whitmore, demoted and relocated to a small branch upstate. The senior VPs who had dismissed Evelyn's claim were either retired early or publicly reprimanded. The bank issued a hollow press release about respecting local history and community partnership, but no one bought it. Meanwhile, Holloway Credit Union bloomed like something that had been waiting to rise for generations. Evelyn didn't run the place, but she guided it. She met with the young black woman she'd chosen as branch manager, Kendra Wells, every Tuesday morning over coffee. Kendra had a sharp mind and a sharper sense of justice. Evelyn saw a fire in her that reminded her of her own mother, who used to walk to the courthouse steps barefoot in the 1940s just to pay taxes on land. The town tried to forget her family ever owned. Evelyn told Kendra one thing on their first meeting. "This ain't about making money. It's about making a mark." And a mark they made. They offered loans to families who'd never been given a real chance, farmers who'd been overlooked, local teachers trying to buy their first homes, single mothers starting small businesses. Within 3 months, Holloway Credit Union wasn't just a symbol. It was a force. Then came the newspaper. A local journalist, curious about the woman behind the revolution, dug deeper into Evelyn's past. What she uncovered stunned the whole region. Evelyn's grandfather hadn't just purchased the land under the bank. He'd also saved dozens of families during the Great Depression by giving them small loans. Handwritten, interest-free, backed only by a handshake. Most of the deeds he held were lost in a fire during the 1950s, but Evelyn had preserved what she could, piece by piece, in that sack she'd carried. When the article came out, something strange happened. People started showing up at her front door, some old, some young, some white, some black, many with tears in their eyes, holding envelopes or old boxes. They had IOUs, letters, photos, proof that their families had been helped by the Holloways generations ago. "Your grandfather saved my daddy's farm. My great-grandmother said he gave her a job when no one else would. My uncle said he owed everything to the Holloways, but I never knew what he meant until now." Evelyn listened to them all. She didn't need the praise. She needed the truth to live. On the 1-year anniversary of the bank showdown, a bronze plaque was placed in the square, beside Holloway Credit Union. It read, "This land stood quiet for too long. Now it speaks the names they tried to forget." Evelyn Holloway didn't ask for applause. She only asked that they remember. And they did. Because sometimes the most powerful revolutions don't come with fire or fanfare. Sometimes they walk in quietly, wearing a straw hat, carrying a sack full of history. And they don't just change a bank, they change everything.